Previously on Wooden Potatoes. Okay, now we're getting to my favourite bit of the first trailer. Oh my god! Rata sum? Today we get our answers. Okay, so hello everybody, welcome to another Tyria 3D video. So, back in 2013, I did a video looking at this trailer. You can currently see the 2009 trailer of Guild Wars 2. And that 4-year gap between 2013 and 2009 really changed the game a lot. The first trailer, the 2009 one, shows a lot of stuff that never ended up in-game. That's really the spirit of these Tyria 3D videos, right? Well, one of the biggest things from that trailer, possibly my favourite moment, is Rata looking completely and utterly different. Here, I'll try and track forward. Here we go. This is Rata from the trailer. And as you can see, it's nothing like the Rata we get to explore. I remember before the game came out, looking at this so keenly and desperately wanting to play an Asura, specifically because of this shot, and this shot here that comes after it, where we get to see the Asura wandering around. This we never got to play. This never existed. We could never explore this, and that was pretty sad. The 2013 video I did, I remember just saying, oh, you know, it looks cool, but what more can we say? Today, we can say a lot more. Today, we're actually going to explore it. So let's start with that. Let's start with Rata. Here I am in Tyria 3D. This is the new textured version. I think the first time I saw this map, it was actually just the collision data. There wasn't any textures. But now, as you guys know, the website's actually been updated, and it will now display textures too. That's actually on the live version of the website as well. So if you guys wanted to enjoy that, I think you can go do that now. There'll be a link in the description. But yeah, so this is original Rata. How do we find this map? Again, it's another one of these maps that actually exists in depth if you've got the right client, but players have never been able to go to. So, in theory, on some of these old DATs that have been released to players since the game came out, you could have, like, used dev commands to port over here. Now, obviously, it looks a bit different to the trailer. Many of the post-processing effects and stuff aren't here, so a lot of its beauty has been lost, but hey, that's fine for me. We're actually going to follow where the trailer camera followed. Now, the map itself is made up of two distinct sections. First, we got this little section here, which we'll talk about soon, and then we have the city itself. So the trailer, if you guys remember, pretty much started here, and we moved up, we saw some NPCs, we were patrolling along this road, we moved past this Asura gate, and then we climbed up above Rata, as you can see here. And the funny thing about this, actually, is when we look at original Rata, here we go, we come into the central area now. On the trailer, it looks like this huge, beautiful, really well-completed place. And I remember specifically on the forums way back when, saying, you know, a lot of stuff's unfinished, but they've obviously made great headway, you know, but there's not too much of the game is ready. It could be a while for release date and so on. You know, before this trailer came out, guys, you have to consider that Guild Wars 2, the community, was in a position where many of us thought, I say us, I really wasn't one of these people, but many people in the Guild Wars community thought they could be vaporware. We hadn't heard of anything for years. And then finally this came out and kind of blew people's minds. And of course everyone knew that the game was still in development and it had a long way to go, but you would be surprised. You know, the trailer camera comes down, it shows us the center of the city, which is really cool. It arcs around here, it gets very dark down here, of course, in the trailer, and then it kind of like comes through this door, maybe, somewhere like this, and then it comes through the door, and then it cuts somewhere else. So that's what we get to see, and everything that the camera has tracked through here looks friggin' beautiful. But you will find very quickly that actually it's all a facade, and ArenaNet actually released a trailer in 2009 of a video game that was basically a shell of a game. There was really not very much done at all, and you're specifically going to see that on the second map I'm going to take you guys through on this video today. But so before we get into that and show how empty it really is, what are we looking at? Well, we got the giant central cube in the middle. This eventually became the Arcane Council area, and as you can see, there is no such thing in this early early iteration. I mean, yeah, maybe there could have been an instance that was set there, but physically in the world it didn't exist. If we try and move through any of these cubes, as you'll see, they're just kind of hollow. There is no Arcane Council. And, you know, one thing I actually wonder is the fractals. It would be kind of cool if they'd used this version of the city in the fractals rather than anything else. That would have blown my mind, in fact, but they did not. And then you'll notice, actually, that Rata itself is kind of made up of these 3 chunks. Each of these 3 chunks was supposed to represent one of the 3 colleges of the Asura. Now, we still kind of see this in-game. It's true, we do. There are the 3 chunks, but it's not so pronounced, you know, like you can really see through design here that there was a big separation, a big difference. If you were synergetics, if you were dynamics, if you were statics, you had your own dorm, you had your own area, and like there was very little interaction, I suppose. You know, this could have been telling of earlier designs where the personal story wasn't going to turn out where it was only like 10 levels worth of stuff your college actually matters. Maybe a lot more was going to matter for a lot longer, and it was really going to determine a lot of the areas you went to. Maybe you'd only get quests from this place if you made a character who was of this college. But so yeah, let's actually explore these. This is what I've always wanted to do. Let's get down, let's bring the panel up, let's drop our movement speed, and let's start walking. Hopefully I've picked a good speed. Alright, yeah, so now we can actually explore this. This makes me so happy, and it shouldn't. You know, there are some times in my life where I'm like, oh, I am such a nerd, and this is probably one of them. But here, so what we'll do is we'll walk through, is this Synergetics yellow? I'm really not that good, you know, as much as I know about some story things. I can't remember that. So, we'll come through here, though, and you can actually see, look, we actually get these buildings. This is immediately going to be quite recognizable to you guys. Now, my first thought is, oh, the crafting areas. The crafting areas from Rata, yeah, this is a bit like it, but not really. The downstairs layout is a little bit like we see some of the labs in the live game around Rata. I think our home instance, if you're an Asura, actually has one, a room kind of set up like this. And in fact, these kind of pillars and rampways, actually, you see some out in Metrica Province. But yeah, maybe crafting would have happened here at some point. But suddenly you're noticing, actually, okay, it looks pretty cool, but it's very placeholder. It's very, very placeholder. In fact, you know, what would be the purpose of coming up here? Maybe there'd be some kind of room up here? Well, we certainly can't see it. And so suddenly it's you realize, oh, there's a lot less going on. There are, however, the two ramps, and we do still see this. If you do look at the modern crafting areas, they are very much like this, where you then get the balcony. These balconies are a lot more detailed, however. They've got like lots of plants and stuff. Maybe these were only placed here because they knew that people would see them as it flew by on the trailer. We get, these seem certainly a lot bigger, and they've got a lot more going on with them. But yeah, so each of the three dorms is pretty much just mirrored like this. And unfortunately, guys, there's really not much else to see in these sections. It does get a bit better, though. You're going to find that Rata from the trailer was a really messy, complicated place. I can actually understand, even, maybe I only prefer this design because it's the design I never got to play, so it feels fresh and new. You know, I can totally understand that. Maybe the new design of Rata is objectively better. I can't really say. But what I will say is that this version, the trailer version that they had developed, is a disgusting mess when you get down below. The amount of corridors, how they would have tried navigation of this place, and how they could have evenly set services throughout the city, among many other things, it just will boggle my mind. You notice that we've got these three Asura gates here too. Now, what I'll do is I'll take us back into the skies, like so. Now, in theory, each of those would have gone to a different location. So, we've got the cube on top, which if we move far enough away from, hopefully we'll still be able to see the city. Jesus, that cube is huge. But there's one in, like, each corner, right? So, we would have had one going off in that direction, maybe Metrica Province. Hold on, let me bump the fog up so we can actually see the map again. There we go. So, in theory, we would have had one going off in that direction, which would have been, like, Metrica Province. One we would have had going off in that direction, which we'll talk about soon enough. And then one we would have had go off in that direction. But each one, oh, maybe Lion's Arch, maybe that's how it was supposed to be. But in the end, obviously, there's loads of Asura gates in Rata, and who knows which of those specifically they were supposed to be. But we'll drop ourselves back down. So we have each of the Asura gates. A few of you guys have commented on previous videos in this series about, you know, jumpy cameras and stuff. So each of the dormitories, it's all symmetrical, guys. So you know exactly what those indoor areas look like. So I'm going to try and keep the camera a little bit smoother for you all, but it's reasonably difficult. And then we'll come down these staircases. Sort of. Okay, so the staircases that they were showing weren't really finished. I don't know whether this is just because there was a lot of post-processing that was supposed to show other stuff, but honestly, or it's just Tyria 3D bugging out in a weird way, but honestly, as we can see here, it's all very messy and weird. Maybe there's supposed to be force fields, because here, I doubt we can walk on it in Tyria 3D, but this bridge probably worked as a force field. Here we got these kind of undercroft areas, and again, this is a little bit reminiscent of what we were seeing in live Ratasum. Just a little bit. Presumably would have been filled with NPCs, and our goal is to just kind of descend a little bit further. So what I'm actually going to do is I'll take us flying again, guys, so that we don't have to walk everywhere, because otherwise it'll just take a little bit too long. We have other maps to see. So yeah, we got this kind of area here. We got some more bridges that arc around. Presumably there would have been a way even lower, and we come into the kind of this ring here. So this is kind of a circular platform here, and again, there's one entrance into each college with a big light above it. And now, if we come into here, these are some of my favorite corridors. I would have been like to have just walked around in these with you guys. We can come all the way along, lots and lots and lots of details. Turn left, and oh god, then it just becomes a huge mess. We're inside the cube, sure. But I doubt we were ever supposed to see this. I doubt there were ever supposed to be such giant, hollow, indoor chambers that the Asura could see. But really, you'll notice all the tunnels that they've designed just kind of culminate in pipes that just fall out into nothingness. We've got kind of this area here, which is another engine, but I think this is probably just where a waterfall was supposed to be kind of leaking from the city from. Though we can't see it, but you got another vent there. I mean, this conjures to mind all kinds of crazy missions we could have done in the city, like in the weird hollow chunks. And it even suggests, you know, they're all the way down to the very bottom of the city. Let's up our movement speed again. It even suggests that all the way down to the bottom of the city, there were kind of tunnels and things that we could explore. But even, I guess, in modern Rata, this still remains a bit of a mess. But here, look, we've got ramps that kind of come up and down, and they don't lead anywhere at the moment. But it's so complicated, and it's a mess, and it's crazy, and it's exciting to me, and it's very, very, very interesting. So there you go, that's pretty much Rata. I won't spend too much longer wandering around these hallways. Hope you guys like the look of it, because it kind of blew my mind when we originally found it. But that's not all that's here on the map. The city itself, you know, this kind of messy, labyrinthine, ridiculous nonsense of a city is not all that exists. I can understand why they changed the design of it in the end. This is obviously very, very placeholder. It looked great in the trailer, at least. What about that other kind of landmass? What about that other chunk? Also, it turns out they had started doing a little bit of the terrain around the city. Obviously, Rata in the live game has way more. This is just kind of nothingness around this version of Rata we saw in the trailer. But the actual live game has got a lot of terrain. You know, as the Polymock arenas, which were closed, might be coming back for Half Thorns, who knows. But then we also did see a few shots of some other Asuran places. Now, I'd always assumed that these shots we saw here in the trailer, these were always Metrica Province areas. These were always, you know, like, all of Metrica Province was probably made, and, you know, maybe it was just events and stuff that hadn't dropped, but, like, environment art and things were in place, and then for the trailer, maybe they just dropped a couple of generic NPCs in there, but fine. You know, actually, I remember speculating very initially, early on when this trailer came out, about what kind of quests and events and stuff these golems walking around could have for us, and they were literally just there for show. But none of that was even staged in Metrica Province. Metrica Province, it wasn't even conceived of, perhaps, at that point. Instead, it was all staged on just this tiny little bit of terrain next to the city. So what does this tell us? This actually tells us that at the time of the 2009 trailer, they hadn't made any Asuran stuff at all. They had a trailer, they were like, right, well, the Asura is supposed to be one of the pillars of our game. What do we do? Alright, let's just build a quick map. Let's build a map of what the city's gonna look like. Maybe we'll use this version, maybe we won't, whatever. And then we'll just, like, slap a little bit of terrain on next to it using a bunch of our Asuran assets we've slowly been making, and we'll make it look pretty. But there's no actual content, there's nothing playable, there's like one path. Now, this bit of the path we got to see in the trailer, and it was designed to obviously feel like it was totally different and separate from this area. But this is exactly where we were seeing before. So look, we've got another broken Asura gate here. I'm not sure what the deal is there. We've got a little village here, but the whole thing is this area, it could have been early design for, you know, extra content and map space and playable things outside of Metrica Province, outside of Rata, sorry, or it could have literally just been made for show, for the trailer, and nothing else. And when you look at stuff like this building here that doesn't really have any paths to it or doesn't really make much sense, you know, I can imagine this was just made for the trailer. Here, you actually recognize this. This is in Brisbane Wildlands. If you take a right, if you get into Brisbane Wildlands from Metrica Province and you take a right, you can kind of walk up, you actually find a lab like this. And it's pretty much the same wholesale, it's just in a different location, as you can see here. And we can come up, and you remember there's the plateau at the top with the Asura gate and stuff. So a lot of this did make it into the game, just in different configurations. But so we have this lab, and presumably a lot of the things that Tyria 3D isn't showing us right now is stuff like the floating, spinning cubes and things that we saw on the trailer. But as we follow this path along, you're going to find it pretty much just comes to a dead end. And there you go, that's kind of the way they designed it. Really, really shows how little you can have and decide to make a trailer for the game, or how ArenaNet did in the past, and could make you question as well, like with Heart of Thorns, how little did they have when they made their initial trailer for the Heart of Thorns stuff? Really, really kind of a weird insight into the way the industry can work sometimes, but there you go. I feel satisfied now that I know I'm not really missing too much from original trailer Rata. Yeah, it looks pretty badass from the outside, but as soon as you start prodding it, there's a lot less there than even I would have predicted. Cool. That's not all that I want to show you guys for this video, though. Let's fast forward a little while to when ArenaNet were actually showing off demos of the game. Now, this was from Gamescom 2011, I think, maybe 2010. They did another trailer, and this trailer was the Gamescom trailer. You guys might remember this one. Had, again, a bunch of stuff. They'd been doing profession reveals, and they spliced some of that footage in there, and there was a lot more that had obviously been made for the game. Here we see new Rata, you just saw fly past there, and obviously things were much more finished. However, they did, in the middle of this trailer, show us a shot of Lion's Arch. Now, look very carefully at this Lion's Arch. It looks kind of similar to launch Lion's Arch, but with a few pretty significant differences. And as we move it forward, you'll notice that there's a whole ton of airships in the sky. Turns out we can explore this too, and what kind of video maker would I be if I didn't let you guys see this one? Alright, so here we go. This is Old Lion's Arch. Imagine we had just entered from Gendarin Fields. We're walking around the left. We've just come through the portal. This is what LA originally would have looked like as it greeted us. And yeah, here are the airships. Hold on, let's move up the fog distance. Keep making that mistake. There you go. They're kind of floating there in the sky. Again, only put here for the trailer. Funnily enough, a lot of the towers and things from old LA actually still had collision. But how magnificent and impressive is this? Even here we get to see some dummied, like, NPCs, which is crazy to me because these guys, like, never appear, which is very, very bizarre. So obviously they were doing something kind of different here. But this is exactly where the camera moved through. These were the very pretty, very specific areas they were showing off to us. These giant towers. I wonder if they had plans to, like, allow us to travel through those giant towers. They had concept of the bank. The bank is up there, as you guys can see. Hold on, let's walk up. Oh, it feels so classic. You know, so there's no Mystic Forge. Mystic Forge was actually one of the last things they announced to us with the game, like one of the last things. So originally this was just kind of some plants and things that were there, and this area actually looks a lot smaller ultimately than what ended up in the game. But the Mystic Forge was like kind of more of a late addition, which is funny to me because particularly for legendary crafting and a lot of like stuff, Mystic Forge is pretty key to like end gamey things for Guild Wars 2. But here, check it out. This is the bank. I don't want to walk in case the floor doesn't have collision and stuff. But here it is, and you got kind of the cages on the left and the right. This obviously I'm releasing this video right on the cusp of another revamp to LA, so it's pretty fitting for us to be able to see it here. Waters were a little bit more shallow. And yeah, for this specific area, again, just like Trailer Rat Assume, it's beautiful, right? It looks incredible. And I guess we can marvel at the Pact Fleet. Was there going to be a part of the story, I wonder, where the Pact Fleet was actually going to be in the sky somewhere up there? Maybe the Battle for Lion's Arch story step was originally going to be a lot more elaborate than it ended up being. You know, the full weight of the Pact were going to come, but of course the story ended up being that the Pact didn't even exist before that. And over here we've got some of these bridges, of course, that we saw. Let's stop flying around now, shall we? It's less immersive, but we get to see the good stuff a bit quicker. So here's the bridges, and they're like super placeholdery. They're not placed. I mean, this is like 3 bridges layered together. But then quickly, again, as you see, as we move away from kind of where the trailer was, it breaks down a lot. Like here, we've just got a bunch of floating stuff. Like there's not even terrain here. There's just floating assets. You know, this is where the Asura Gate hub was ultimately going to be before they'd made it. Here we get some old destroyed stuff. And it's nice for me to see this because this is like Guild Wars 1 referencing stuff, and they knew for a long time that the Priory and things were going to be here. It almost looks like Tyria 3D is just incapable of rendering stuff that was here, but it might not be issues. It could just be that they really just slapped a bunch of stuff down. Over here we got kind of a tent area. I don't think this ended up in the game. Oh, yes, it did. It did. Because this was where you could go and access the bank very quickly when you were trying to activate access the TP. And here we got kind of like a cafe area in what ultimately ended up as the Black Line Trading Company, and the building doesn't exist here. And as we move further away, stuff like the Script Cave and all of these extra things, the jumping puzzle, none of that exists. Here we can see very clearly they did have a road plan to come all the way out here. And from a previous Tyria 3D video, you guys will know that this is also where the Tengu Wall ended up being, and access to that other map that never ended up being a part of the game. So they had rough ideas. Old LA, like sunken, ruined LA is down there at the moment, or at least Coral is. It doesn't actually look like they even put the ruins there, so there's another big thing. But yeah, so there you go, guys. Lastly, we've got Fort Mariner. And the Wild vs. Wild Gate pit is very, very different here. This is pretty cool. No buildings, none of this stuff. It's all empty and open, as you can see. But here we kind of got like a rocky plateau and like a weird spiral rock pyre that we actually had to kind of worm our way up circularly. And then we would get to the very top. And then as we came through the top, I don't know. I guess this is where the portals would have been, or this itself is a giant portal that's not being rendered very well. But yeah, so it kind of looks like you were supposed to like walk up and then this would take you into the mist or something, like some ascent into the mists. And then they realized, oh, why didn't we have separate portals for each borderland and stuff as they refined what World vs. World was going to be. And then that changed. And over here we've got obviously this building, which ended up as a prison. I wonder if we can go through. Yeah, and it's kind of the same here. It's just that the door's closed. And that, guys, is original LA. Oh, lastly, the mini pet area. The mini pet area had kind of these nets and things over the top of it. So maybe this was supposed to have a little bit more at some point. There you go, guys. There you go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these old trailer areas. If there's more interesting stuff, I'll let you know. There certainly are some more maps we could do tours of, so you could see some more Tyria 3D videos in the future, as long as you guys are still enjoying them. Myself, I love this stuff. I cannot get enough of it. But yeah, really, guys, thanks very much. I'll see you tomorrow. We're on the cusp of a really big patch, so I guess we'll get ready for that. Catch you next time, guys.